Hello, my name is Joe Webb, the Storyteller. Today is going to be a very short one. I'm going to do just a very small little plot with me thing. And I'm going to use this particular card. It is one of the cards in the Storyteller deck, and it is basically quite a significant moment in a story when someone completely breaks down in manic fury. To see that happen and to then contemplate what effects that could have on anything following is very interesting. You know, what effects it could have on the person, on the choices that they make, on the way that they perceive things, on the way they interact with people and their relationships they have with people, if the sorts of personalities that emerge from within them change. So that's very interesting. I need you, by the way, if anyone enjoys these sorts of videos, I need you to tell me if you like the sort of screen thing that I'm doing here, where you can see what I'm typing. I need you to tell me if you like that or not, because if not, I'm not going to do it. The moment when someone breaks down in manic fury. Okay. So, before you can sort of contemplate on anything, before you can come up with any sort of hypothetical scenarios or reflect on any sorts of effects that some experience of a person can have, you need to know what's going on, where you are. In this case, we're in a high street. Let's just say that. And, yeah, high street. And let's say there's a monster, just for fun. And you know, one day I'd like to do these videos where I just make a story from start to end. But I'm just getting into it at the moment. Okay, what are the effects? What are the signs? I'm going to start off with the signs. This is so, you'll see me talk about this a lot. Signs, subtle and obvious. This is all to do with how we piece together events in our head when we're remembering things and putting things together, and even when we're imagining what could be in another life. Fiction making, right? And we think about the thing that we're thinking about, and then we think back and we think, well, because we live in time and we know that there's a thing called cause and effect, we always are able to know that there's signs that things unfold. And this is always present, whether you notice it or not. So some of them are going to be rather subtle, and you might not even pick up on them. The people that you're telling a story about might not pick up on them. And the people, even the people you're telling a story to, maybe the audience don't even pick up on them. That's maybe how subtle they are. I mean, you can really layer it. And some of the signs are very obvious. Some of them, you know, that's then when you're an audience in the story, that's when you start. That's when it starts being called things like foreshadowing or mystery. But I'm not going to think of it in that way, just for now. So the subtle signs that someone was on a crash course to manic fury, complete breakdown. What is it? What's the description? They spiraled into a manic fury because of the shock of it all. That needs a bit of work. But these are very old, by the way. These printouts are very old. I realised that the way that they were designed wasn't going to work exactly. I mean, it's so complex. All of these cards, it's taken me 2.5 years now, and I really thought I'd be done, and I'm not. So, oh well. Signs of manic fury. Maybe it's something they said earlier. I don't know what's happening earlier. Maybe you know. It's not. I'm not working on a big developed concept here, but let's just pretend that, well, we've got here that there's a monster, and in this particular scene, they're in High Street, And whatever's going on, maybe at some point they said something that makes you think, are they okay? They look like they're on the edge of not doing too well. Maybe someone found something about them, something to do with their past, you know? And you'd think, oh boy, someone who went through something like that is probably prone to breaking down in mania. And I imagine, let's think about what causes it. Now, particularly with people, things happen in life that repeat. And if you have pretty difficult pasts or events in the past, when that is then mirrored again in the future, or when you're reminded of something, it can obviously cause a stir up. So we can think about mirrored situations that mirror past situations that were pretty horrible for them. And we can also think about reminders, something that reminds them. And in order to do that, we'd have to think about what the past situation was. This is where their backstory comes into play. And then if they had a backstory where it was that was very similar to a situation that could happen, which causes them to go into a manic fury or kind of pushes them over the edge, we'd have to think about the backstory in order to think about the reminders of it. So I don't know what the backstory is, but let's just say that it was, someone involved looks very similar. Or maybe the situation plays out in a similar way. Or maybe it's in the same place. Yeah, maybe you get back to a place. Maybe it's a song they hear. Maybe the name of a person, just hearing a person's name that you didn't have very good experiences with can bring back some feelings. So there's all sorts of reminders about what causes it, all sorts of situations that can mirror it. And lastly, I'm just going to think about, look, the whole point of this is that I guess we tell stories because it's the proof of the pudding of our reflection towards significant aspects of life that we feel are worth sharing, because maybe because that which we're reflecting on and then sharing as a story is significant to us in some way. And likely because whatever we're sharing, the events, lots of events in a story, are quite impactful. They are demonstrations of truths that we carry. And so we would think about things that, situations, truths of life that can cause people to just fall into this sort of state. And we can also think about the truths that we might expect to manifest and unfold when someone enters this sort of state. And all of this is relevant to meaningful themes that we think about, which I did quite a long video, quite a very in-depth video, where I developed meaningful themes from scratch in an icy wasteland, set in an icy wasteland where you don't really have much to work with, but I still managed to get a lot of good themes. If you would like me to help with your story and do something like this, where I explore ideas and come up with questions, then that will be something that I'm going to do. Nice and quick one. I hope it gets you thinking. I'm Joe Webb, the Storyteller. See you next time.